although I didn't really appreciate it at that point of time, but somewhere at the back of my mind it started happening कि भाई एक बार तो आपको civil services देना है. One of the other reasons to also look towards this side also was कि बहुत सारे अच्छे दोस्त, they were also preparing for that, and that really it's called, whatever you can say, it's peer pressure, or you get influenced by people around you. I also started studying about it, and it's not like that I have not come across bureaucrats. And since my father is a chartered accountant, so he always used to talk about revenue service officers. So, and I had an opportunity to meet a couple of them as well. So that was sort of my first idea of civil services, and it was only in my final year of college that an inclination started happening. And so being a law student, one of the things which works in your favor is that you are a little more aware about how the society works. And since you have as part of your curriculum, you have studied history, you have studied economics, you have studied political science as a part of BLLB honors program, so you are a lot more aware about things around you, and you are more inclined towards reading newspapers because you look at what is happening around you. So that essentially kept me going in the initial few months of my preparation journey. But then I always had an inclination कि I'll work in the private sector. My parents were always of the opinion कि नहीं आपको government job की तरफ देखना चाहिए, try for judiciary or try for any other job in the government side, because at least you have the option of fighting your case. Basically you can obviously go anywhere. In the private sector there is no sort of surety that you will get. But still, since I was the first one to get into Luthra and Luthra services as a visually impaired person, there had been people before in other law firms who had been there, and he is also one of my very, very close friend, and he has always been a guiding light for me when it comes to dealing with the disability that I have. But then I felt that somewhere down the line it's good to experience. Since you've gotten an opportunity to work in a law firm, I mean there is nothing stopping you from getting that experience for a bit and then maybe try for this exam. So I worked in Luthra and Luthra law offices for about 8 to 10 months. As life would have it, there was another roadblock that came my way, right? So I think it was end of 2015 and early 2016. Those couple of months, I can say, they were the worst couple of months of my life, and there's no doubt about that. So while I was working in Luthra, again, the vision in eyes start deteriorating. So I had glaucoma in both my eyes. I have it still. So it keeps, it keeps coming up over a period of time. You never know. There's so much uncertainty around it. So there was a further deterioration of vision happening in my right eye again. So it was sort of such a mentally traumatic time that was for me as well as my parents, and everything was so disturbed, and you didn't know what is going to happen. And doctors had said that there was one kind of surgery, if we do it, you don't know whether you will have whatever little vision you have or not. So that just gave me chills down my spine, because I mean, although I had experienced partial blindness, so I know how things can be, and when you get your surgery done, your eyes are completely shut for a while, and you have experienced that sort of a thing. But going through that whole experience and just imagining it in your dreams, and it used to be such a crazy time at that point of time. But then again, you somehow through your support systems and your family friends, आपके आसपास के जो लोग होते हैं, and कहीं ना कहीं अगर आपके सामने कोई चैलेंज आता है, you always find a way. तो after the operation, luckily we were able to stop the deterioration, and I mean, whatever little vision I had, we could prevent it from going. But that was again a complete change, you know, because see, one of the things which you have to also realize is someone who is blind by birth, he has different sort of challenges, right? And once he has adjusted, he or she has adjusted his life as per that, at least it becomes sort of, there is some sort of certainty that, you know, you can read braille, you can move in a certain way, and would have gotten training in such a manner that you will be able to deal with situations on that particular basis. It's also really complex situation. I'm not saying that it's something that is easy, but for instance, in my case, when things happen gradually and they happen on a constant basis, 3-4 years you have, you know, made some accommodations, you are adjusted to a particular kind of life and when things again start happening, it becomes really challenging. But I think things happen for a purpose, and that's where essentially my final journey towards civil services really began. That was also the time where I realized that in a private setup, there is no sort of there's a lot of uncertainty which is there, right? And there was something which, you know, pushed me that, you know, I was just not able to contribute in a meaningful manner which I want to, right? Although my workplace was really accommodative and people were really supportive and those things were there, but certainly in my heart I had that feeling कि नहीं यार, मतलब this is not my calling, कहीं ना कहीं कुछ missing है. And then the thought of going into civil services came, and as the time went by, that you know, motivation to get into civil services got really strong, and that too like into Indian Administrative Service. And the reason behind that is कि, so my life journey which has been there, that has taught me one thing. Like, I've experienced life both as a able-bodied individual, when I had vision in both my eyes, even though I used to use specs, but I used to look the world through a normal lens, right, as anybody else would. But then in the last 10 to 12 years, since when my vision loss happened in college and what life I have seen right now, I can also see the society from the lens of a differently abled individual. So I felt, you know, there's something in me which told me that I could really make a difference and gauge, you know, that gap which exists between, you know, the differently abled society and the abled society, which is stopping us from becoming a more inclusive society. And you know, if I, being a part of the system, can bring about some change in that direction, that will give me a lot of satisfaction. And that's where my journey towards civil services really took shape. I mean, I'm not saying there were a lot of challenges which came up. I mean, for us, accessibility is a huge challenge. Finding your sources, your books, what you will want to look at, and you know, what is available online, getting that converted into OCR, and then you know, being able to limit your sources, because what happens is that really limits your preparation as well. So I took law as optional, and then I had to struggle for that also. And you know, I was not really afraid about prelims, like, because I had appeared for MCQs, I had given a lot of mocks, and looking at the previous year results and everything, prelims was something which didn't bother me a lot. Of course, you know, I am not saying that, you know, it's I think one of the most difficult stages of civil services exam. But since I had prepared so well for the prelims from the beginning itself, and you know, the standard books and all of those things, so I was not scared about how would I be able to crack your prelims. But mains, when it comes to mains, and it was something which was always a roadblock for me. I cleared my civil services exam in my third attempt, and I cleared all 3 prelims. So mains was something of a roadblock because 2 of the mains I couldn't clear, and that was something which kept bothering me for a while. But as you know it, this is such a long journey. One of the things that everyone needs to look at is it's a very, very long journey and a very uncertain one. So you are in this journey for a long haul, right? So stress will happen, you will have a lot of ups and downs, moods will keep fluctuating, you will feel like अरे यार छोड़ दो यार नहीं हो पाएगा. But that's where your inner self comes into the picture. You have to keep pushing yourself, you have to keep motivating yourself. Also, like, it's very important to have a hobby as well on your side, because it keeps you engaged. So I was always a very big cricket enthusiast. So I always used to be following cricket, or if there was some match, I used to watch that. Like, I used to like going for movies. So I used to make it a point that I go for a movie. Even so, the mains which I cleared, I think 1 week before that also I went for a movie. It's just about the mindset. So what happens is people approach UPSC as an exam, and that's where the biggest mistake happens. You need to approach it as just a part of your life, right? So even though it's an exam, it's a journey which opens your world, your horizons to a great extent, right? You become such an aware citizen, you know a lot of things, and you can just look at it at that way, and that keeps you engaged, and then it keeps you motivated to be a part of the journey, and this journey becomes a lot more enjoyable. So that's where things started happening. And what happened is ki pehla mains mein I was just struggling for getting proper sources, and that's where I felt that was the problem. It was in the second mains that I realized ki having a good scribe, right, that is also a very important thing for people like us, right? So UPSC does provide you an option of having your own scribe, or they also provide a scribe from their side as well. It's your choice. And I appeared my first 2 mains with the help of commission scribe. Although they were quite qualified people, and there was not a lot of issue, but then since you have not written a lot of mocks with them, compatibility becomes a huge lot of an issue. Vocabulary difference, and the style of presentation, how you be able to manage your time, because these are certain issues which are really, really important while you are appearing for mains exam. So this is something which was a huge challenge for me. I couldn't write mocks because I didn't have, I was preparing from Bulandshahr itself. So that was another roadblock. I was doing coaching online, I was taking test series and all those things, but since I was preparing from Bulandshahr, I didn't have any scribe, or since the exam is for a week, so getting a scribe for a week, it becomes really, really difficult. So after looking at my performance as the first 2 mains, I took that call of moving to Delhi in my last attempt, basically, right? So also my optional was also not up to the mark, so I thought there is a need to brush that up and to get expert guidance on that. So I moved to Delhi and joined Nirvana coaching, and I think that was the changing point of my civil services journey, basically.